Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The undercard for Fury Wilder 3 on July the 24th has been officially confirmed, and it actually throws up a couple of surprising things, and I'll get to it from the press release because Efe Ajagba and Frank Sanchez are the co-main event rather than Robert Helenius versus Adam Kownacki, the rematch. We'll talk about that. You also have a few delusional statements from some of the fighters involved, and Jared Anderson, his opponent, has been confirmed as Vladimir Tereshkin. So this is a case for Anderson that's being pitched as a step up against a contender, but let's face it, Tereshkin, it is a complete mirage, and we'll come to that too. But see here on screen, so this is the press release, so you have the graphic up the top. It says unbeaten Efe Ajagba and Frank Sanchez battle in co-main event. Revenge will repeat Robert Helenius and Adam Kownacki set for highly anticipated rematch and pay-per-view featured bout. Rising star Jared Anderson steps up against unbeaten Russian Vladimir Tereshkin in pay-per-view opener. So this is a 4-card all heavyweight event. So we'll skip past the opening piece of the press release, but the co-main event, so it is going to be Efe Ajagba, known as the one and only, versus Frank the Cuban Flash Sanchez. So both these guys, unbeaten prospects or fringe contenders. It's one of the two. They are not current contenders in the heavyweight division. They are guys on the way up who really haven't sort of recorded any wins of any real note. They've had some of the requisite step-ups against gatekeepers, journeymen, all that sort of stuff. In each other, they face the toughest test of their respective careers to date. But I am surprised it is the co-main event because I think the other fight, which is Robert Helenius and Adam Kownacki, is more meaningful in terms of the heavyweight division. There's more on the line. Robert Helenius is the gold champion, but also, you know, the winner could go on to a much bigger and better fight. Both these guys are established contenders. Sure, Adam Kownacki got knocked out in that first fight, but he's had a number of good contender-level wins in recent years. You can think the likes of Chris Arreola, Charles Martin, Gerald Washington. There is others, Artis Spilka. So he's got a sort of career that has been solidified with good wins in recent years. Robert Helenius, a little bit up and down, beat Erkentepper in 2018, and obviously he lost to Gerald Washington before having this upset win over Adam Kownacki in 2020, and now we have the rematch. So I'm surprised that isn't the co-main event, but for whatever reason they're looking to push this bout with Efe Ajagba and Frank Sanchez. Perhaps it's because it is one of these cross-promotional bouts, Ajagba with Top Rank and Sanchez with PBC. Maybe they're really looking to push the winner of this fight, give them that stage to have a real showcase, and whatever happens, happens, and they can get some shine, move on to a much bigger and better fight. But of the comments here, so we'll get to Ajagba first. So he says, I'm honoured to be fighting on the Fury Wilder 3 pay-per-view as the co-main event. I have been patiently waiting for this opportunity to showcase my skills. My fans and critics can expect to see more jabs, head movement, footwork, and power in both hands against Frank Sanchez. July 24 is going to be a special night for the one and only Efe Ajagba. And it's good to hear that he says that there's going to be more jabs and more head movement, especially the head movement, because often he can be a little too static and a little bit easy to hit, doesn't move that head, but he has been working on that more, especially since moving to a new trainer. So he moved his setup away from the PBC, away from Ronnie Shields. He's been working with Kay Karoma, so we'll have to see what he has been doing in the gym for the past year. Basically, he is a guy that at one point in time there were high expectations, but they have certainly leveled off. But he has had, in my view, and I know some people are very quick to sort of jump on Ajagba and criticize him, but he's been quite well matched in his career in terms of the right fights at the right time to actually push him, give him tests, give him something to think about in the ring, and he can get something out of it. A lot of other prospects haven't had nearly as tough a sort of matchmaking as Ajagba has in his last 5 or 6 fights. I mean, save for that Brian Howard fight, that was his last one out. That was, you know, a washed former cruiserweight, which was a good sort of showcase fight for him to get a knockout, and he got a spectacular looking one. But those fights against the likes of Ali Erendemirasian, you also had Iago Kaladze, and there was a few others as well, Razvan Kajanu. Those were good fights for his development, and he seemingly is developing, but where's his ceiling? So we're going to see against a guy in Frank Sanchez who can move, who can box, is slick, is faster than Ajagba. And Ajagba's footwork is not great. He is often a bit plodding. So if he has been making improvements, he'll need to exercise them in the ring, because obviously in front of him is going to be a tough test. But in Frank Sanchez, so he says, I'm excited to make my case as the top heavyweight title contender on the best pay-per-view card of the year. So I'm going to jump in there, because at the moment, Frank Sanchez, along with Efe Ajagba, they've been in that sort of end of prospect phase, sort of heading into fringe contendership. Winning against Efe Ajagba does not make you the top heavyweight title contender. It makes you ready and groomed for a much bigger and better fight. But you're not the top heavyweight title contender winning this fight against Ajagba, who's only fought at a certain level. It'd be different if you were fighting Kownacki or Helenius, because they're much more established and have wins and have fought at a certain level. But just got to sort of, jump on that comment, and, because Frank Sanchez is delusional if he thinks he is the top heavyweight title contender on the back of a win against Efe Ajagba. It'll be a decent win, the best win of his career, but he needs to have bigger and better fights to prove that, one, he can, fight for a title, but is deserving of one as well, because beating Ajagba does not make you ready to fight for a world title or deserving of one, in my view. So he says, I look forward to fighting Efe Ajagba and coming out victorious. Boxing fans want to see the best fight the best. And I will jump in there again. I actually think this is good matchmaking. They are putting it on the line. So credit to both these guys for actually jumping in there, putting their records on the line. And obviously the loser, it's not a huge way back, but it would be a significant step back. But for the winner, bigger fights will be there. People say Efe Ajagba is avoided, and that's exactly why I chose to fight him. Fans can expect a great fight between two undefeated heavyweights July 24. Now, if this was maybe 18 months to 2 years ago, and people were at the time saying Efe Ajagba was avoided, but it was more avoided by the prospect sort of level journeyman that he was sort of meant to face, not by the top end guys in the division. He's not avoided by them because he was never ready to fight them. It was more they were finding it hard to get him the appropriate tests and step-ups on the way up. So he is gilding the lily there by talking about Ajagba being avoided, and also, top heavyweight title contender if he wins. That to me is just blowing things all out of proportion. In terms of the Kownacki and Helenius fight, which I would have thought would have been the co-main event, and I actually think they're probably going to get better paid than the likes of Sanchez and Ajagba. Kownacki says, I'm looking forward to repeating my first performance against Kownacki. Sorry, this is Helenius. Boxing fans can expect another incredible fight with my hand raised in victory once again. All of Finland will be behind me when I show the world why I'm the most deserving of a world title fight. My only goal is to be world champion, and unfortunately for Adam, he stands in my way. Well, it is this classic case of repeat or revenge, but also similar to Sanchez commenting about ready for a world title fight and deserving of it. I think if he beats Adam Kownacki again, you can make a case that he's an outside shot for probably a voluntary title defense, but I don't think in terms of the list of contenders who most boxing fans in the heavyweight division would want to see getting a title shot, that Robert Helenius is anywhere near the top of that list. I think he would be lucky to get a title shot on the back of this sort of performance if he gets a win over Kownacki. So Kownacki, he says, I'm very excited to be back in the ring. The pandemic made things hard for everyone, but things are getting back to normal. Being part of an all heavyweight pay-per-view like this feels great, and it's a great thing for fans of our sport. This pay-per-view will be action-packed from top to bottom. I can't wait to get my revenge against Robert Helenius. It's been a long year waiting for the rematch, but I'll be getting a victory on July 24. I feel like things will get back to normal, and I will prove that I'm one of the top heavyweights in the world. And for Kownacki, obviously after that knockout loss to Helenius at the start of 2020, he will need to make some adjustments, and hopefully he has been working hard in the gym. He's had some issues with his weight being a little bit too high and making excuses about that, but also blocking punches with his face is not always the best strategy against a guy in Helenius who is heavy-handed. So is he going to be able to pull off the sort of repeat or revenge equation, getting the revenge? We'll see, but I like that fight. In terms of Jared Anderson, so he's 9-0 heading into this fight. He is going to be facing Vladimir Tereshkin. So now this is an interesting case because you can see here, Tereshkin 22-0-1, 12 KOs, a 6'6" southpaw, 14-year professional who's won 14 consecutive fights since the lone draw on his ledger. Now this is a case of mirage matchmaking, because the fact that Tereshkin has had a 14-year career and is unbeaten, but has really faced no one, should set alarm bells ringing. And what I mean by that is get to the box rec here. So 22, no losses, 1 draw, number 203 in the world. And the fact that he's had 23 fights and he's number 200 odd in the world, very concerning, number 16 in Russia. So he is a big guy. He is obviously going to look the part in there. But when you go through the record, a complete mirage. He actually was a guy that I was going to have in my next heavyweight pretenders or contenders, because he has been described as a contender for the purposes of this fight, but he is not. This is a highly padded record. There's nothing on it. There's no real notable step up. There's a couple of journeymen who, have been around the circuit fighting different guys. You can look there at Laszlo Toth, Yuri Bakotsu. He actually had a decent fight against Robert Helenius a few years back. A couple of fights, actually. But in terms of the overall record, there's no discernible sort of proper level step up to any sort of fringe contender type status. A very highly padded record, 22-0-1. This shapes as a showcase for Jared Anderson. Currently 9-0, has been looking increasingly better. I mean, they're saying this is a step up, but I don't believe it is. I actually think some of the other people on his resume are probably better than Tereshkin. I think Kingsley eBay would beat Tereshkin, so would Luis Eduardo Pena. I think Rodney Hernandez would probably beat him as well. This is a showcase fight, pure and simple. They're going to talk big. This guy, hey, he's huge. He's got an unbeaten record, a long seasoned pro, and then Jared Anderson is going to steamroll him. That's what we're talking about. That's what's going to happen. Expect it. Log it now. This is, in my view, a mismatch. Vladimir Tereshkin is going to get rolled over and be put into a world of hurt. And the fact that he turned pro all the way back in 2007, and then you sort of scroll through and look on the right-hand side here, he was in 6 and 8 rounders up until 2017. So 10 years of fighting 6 and 8 rounders, and then finally stepped up to 12 rounders in 2019. Massive red flags going off here for me. And they might be able to sort of couch this as a certain level of fight, but I think we know what the score is here. They've overpaid this guy to sell his record for this fight. So Jared Anderson to win by probably brutal stoppage. But anyway, I'll wrap it up there. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.